morning, grade 4s. Today we are going to talk about some tricky words that are often mistaken for each other. And so as I go through these, I'm also going to do a few examples in your book. Be ready to jump around because it will be a bit of jumping today. So here we go. The first two words that people often miss is accept and accept. They sound very similar. They're almost homonyms, but they have very different meanings. The word accept means to receive something. I accept this gift. I accept your gift. It's talking about like taking something in. I accept this. Accept is describing something that's left out. It's not part of the group. For example, I like all fruit except bananas, leaving out bananas, excluding bananas. So accept is to receive. Accept is to leave out. They're sort of almost opposites. There we go. So on your page, there will be a few questions where you have to choose which one is the right one. In this sentence, let's decide, do we mean accept as in to take or receive, or accept as in to leave out? Pastor Harris will accept the invitation, and then the sentence goes on. Are we leaving out the invitation, or are we receiving the invitation? If you said receive, accept, you would be correct. So we circle the one with an A, just like that. Our next section is about two verbs that are also confused very similarly. We have affect and effect. So once again, one has an A, one has an E. And the easiest way to tell these two apart is to know that affect with an A is a verb. If you flip that A upside down, you get a V for verb. So if you are affecting something, you're doing something, you're influencing something else. For example, my attitude affects others. Affects in this case is a verb. Now the other one, effect, is a noun. It's a person, place, or thing. And it means the result of something. So for example, the effect of a good attitude is happy friends. In this case, this is a noun, so we're using the word effect. Now, that being said, both of them sound like effect, so you have to be a little bit careful, but A for a verb, E for a noun. Let's look at Think A number 4 for a good example of this. One effect of our stay at the beach was that I got sunburn on my nose. So in this case, we look at the effect and the effect, and we decide, are we needing a noun or are we needing a verb in this sentence? Do we want a person, place, and thing there, or do we want a verb? Well, we already have a verb in our sentence over here, so it wouldn't make sense to put another one right over there. So I think we're gonna have to go with effect. The result of our day at the beach was that I got sunburn on my nose, and yes, that makes sense. So in this case, we chose the E one. Very good. Next, let's take a look at another common mistake that's made. And this mistake is made when we use words like sure to or try to. Now, sometimes when we're in a sentence and we're saying things really quickly, we use the word and instead of to. Be sure and do this. That is actually incorrect. Whenever we use a word like sure or true or try, we should always follow it with a to, not an and. So in this sentence, be sure and do your homework. That's not correct. Instead, we'd say be sure to do your homework. That is grammatically correct, and that is what we should be saying. Same thing with the try. Try and be quiet? Nope. Try to be quiet. That is how we're actually supposed to say it. So let's take a look at Think A number 7. We have to choose. Do we put an and or a to after this one? This one should be pretty easy. Mom asked Dad, will you try and mow the backyard? And then it keeps on going. We know that we never use the word and, so we are definitely going to circle the to. Will you try to mow the backyard? Blah, blah, blah. That's the one we want. Awesome. Finally, let's talk about the difference between the words burst, break, and bust/busted, because oftentimes those two words are also confused. We never want to use the word bust or busted as a verb. It is bust. We will sometimes say it as an adjective, but it is never a verb. So if you ever see bust or busted in your sentence, you have to replace it with something else. So for example, the ball busted when it fell on the rock. Instead of using the word busted, we can use the word burst. The ball burst when it fell on the rock. We could also use a type of break. For example, watch out, your light bulb will not bust, it will break. We can even use a word like broke. Those are all great alternatives, but never are we going to use the bust or busted word. So let's take a look at Think Bee this time. We have to decide if this sentence is correct or incorrect, and if it is incorrect, we need to underline the incorrect word, and we have to replace it with the word that is correct. So here I'm going to read the first sentence. My watch busted when it hit the edge of the table. So once again, busted, nope, not an option. That word is incorrect. So on the line, I'm going to write I for incorrect. What would I replace busted with? My watch burst? Well, it's not like a balloon. I don't think it would necessarily burst. But is there a form of break I could use? My watch break when it hit the edge of the table? Or maybe my watch broke when it hit the edge of the table. Broke is a good word. It's much better than busted, which is not a word we would use in that situation. So there's our answer, grade 4s. Keep those in mind. Here are just a few more words that can be confused, grade 4s. First of all, the word have after should. Oftentimes people will say, I should have done this. But what they're really saying is I should have done this. It's never correct to write of after the word should. So whenever I see something like this, I should have brushed my teeth, they should actually write I should have brushed my teeth. Have is correct. In fact, when we're just saying it fast, we blur the word have together so it sounds like of, but it always has been have. That's a lot of haves. Okay. Next one, we have less versus fewer. Now, less is used to measure things that are too small to actually be counted. So, for example, liquids are a great example, or fine things like flour or sand. We can't say, I have fewer grains of sand than you, because then that would mean we'd count every single grain of sand. That wouldn't make sense. So we use the word less in situations like that. So in this case, I have less water than you. We use less because water can't be counted. Fewer is used for things that can be counted, that are larger. So for example, I have fewer cookies than you. We can count people. We can count turkeys, any animals. That sort of thing would use the word fewer. That's the difference there. So if you look at Think Bee, we'll do one example there. We're going to find out if the sentence is correct, and then if it's not, we're going to replace the word. There are less students in our class this year than last year. So we're using the word less to count students. Students you can count, so we wouldn't want to use the word less. We'd want to use the word fewer instead. So that sentence would be incorrect, just like that. Now, the word off. Sometimes when we're saying a sentence, we say off of this. We actually don't have to put that. Of is like an extra word. We don't actually need it in our sentence. So for example, if I was saying, I jumped off of the building, that of serves no purpose, because if I say the sentence, I jumped off the building, it means exactly the same thing. So never use the word of after the word off. And finally, there is a difference between wait on and wait for. Wait on means to serve. So for example, he waited on our table. He's serving the food on your table. But wait for means you're waiting like an amount of time to do something. For example, we waited for a table to be ready. So they're waiting, they're spending time actually waiting. So if you think it's time, use the word for. If it's serving, we're going to use the word on. Those are the last ones, grade 4s. Good luck with today's work, and goodbye.